And hello and welcome to Seattle 2 from Moop.
Oh, that's staying in it.
Nope. Hello and
you
welcome.
You came up with the title.
This is Seattle 2 Unknown. I am Melinda.
And I'm Sarah.
And I'm actually currently in Seattle.
And I am not. So Melinda and I met each other growing up in the Seattle area. But since then, I have moved from Seattle to Los Angeles. And then from Los Angeles, yeah, I agree. Los Angeles,
land
and from Los Angeles to Dusseldorf, Germany. So I guess in that equation, hey, there might be others. Did you know that there's a Seattle in Mexico?
No shit. We should go there.
Yeah, well,
it's Seattle to Seattle at that episode.
That would be pretty funny. It would be. Yeah, so I've been in Germany for a few years now. But like I said, Melinda and I met each other when we were really little, like kindergarten, I think we determined.
I think it was kindergarten, yeah.
Yeah,
because, you gotta do the youth group organization thing.
Yeah, we were both in the same organization, different groups, same program. And there was this camping event that my group wanted to go to, and Melinda's didn't.
Because they were party poopers, like major party poopers.
My group was not party poopers per se, but
you were like the Island of Misfit Toys group.
Not quite. Like there were a lot of us, but a lot of them had helicopter parents who were not super nice. So, but anyway, my mom basically adopted Melinda and her mom to come with us to this event. And before we went, I think we were all like gearing up and packing our bags into the car at my mom and dad's house. And so Melinda was there with her mom. And I
got dropped off. I don't think my mom went. I feel like I got dropped off.
That
actually, I am a strong, independent child, and I don't need no parent.
Yeah, that
just kidding. Like I love you, Mom. Dropping me off?
Being a strong, independent 5-year-old who don't need no parents.
No, I need my parents. No, I'm pretty sure I got dropped off with your group.
That sounds about right, because there were so many helicopter parents already there that there weren't room for other parents.
And I was like, okay, bye, you're fine.
So I only have a vague recollection of our first interaction, but apparently you have a much greater memory of this.
Yeah, it's like, I've got it, because it's a split level, right?
Yep.
Your parents' house was a split level, and I remember you sitting on the stairs, and you're trying to figure out putting on your shoes, like which shoe would to what foot. And I'm like, oh, I got this. I can help you. I know about shoes. So I tried to help you, but you were still getting it wrong, and you still had them on the wrong feet, and you couldn't tie them either. And it's like, oh gosh, this kid.
Okay, that is where your memory cannot possibly be right, because I only wore Velcro shoes.
Or maybe it was somebody else trying to tie their shoes, but like I remember you had your shoes on the wrong feet.
And oh yeah, absolutely. Okay, that is a slight exaggeration. We were talking about this a couple weeks ago while I was at home, and you were making fun of me, which is kind of our thing. I say that as if we're the only friends who make fun of each other.
That's how you know that like I care, is if I'm poking fun at you and like trying to make you cry.
So Melinda was making... Yes, you do occasionally do that. So Melinda was making fun of
laughter.
You were making fun of me about not being able to put my shoes on the right foot. And that very night, I'm going out to walk my dog. He's giving me his, oh my God, I think I have to poop howl. Because even though he's over a year old, it still shocks him whenever he feels the urge to poop.
Same.
That's sad. I'm running into my sister's spare bedroom because we're staying at her house. I grab my shoes, I pull them on really quickly so I can run out after the dog. And I look down and I realize, cheesy crazy, I've got my shoes on the wrong feet again. 30 years old and still making the same mistakes.
Yeah, old habits die hard.
At least like say it was a habit.
I feel like 75% of the time you get your shoes on the right feet. I'm very proud of you. You've made some great progress since kindergarten.
I don't know. You might be too generous. I'd say maybe like 50%.
Oh,
It's
it's
the luck
because
of the
we're
draw.
in different areas. I can't monitor your shoeing.
Yeah. So we've known each other obviously since we were
Way too
quite
long.
little. Yeah, way too long.
Way too
I read
long.
a I read a thing the other day that said if you've been friends with someone for over 7 years, you're stuck with them.
I,
Actually, they might have phrased it slightly more, a little bit nicelier than that. But the gist was Melinda's stuck with me.
yeah. See, way too long. Seven
Yeah, we're
years, I think, is like kind of low. I don't know.
no, because there's plenty of people in elementary school who I was friends with for 7 years, and I would cross the street if I saw them coming now.
Yeah, I feel like it needs to be longer, like at least 10 years or something.
Yeah, at least.
Anyways, we have decided to start this travel podcast because there's a lot of misconceptions still about travel and like a
Yeah,
lot of like odd questions. I don't maybe not odd, but like questions that should be easy that they're not. Like people just know. Moose agrees. He's like, "Yes,
yeah.
we need to answer these questions about solid or liquids and how much can he take?"
So basically, one of the things that you get as a person who travels fairly frequently is a lot of weird questions, a lot of questions that kind of leave me scratching my head. And so, yeah, I think we both at some point realized we like travel. We talk about it a lot.
I don't know. You leave the country once and you come back, and people have questions. People don't. They think it's harder than it is. It's more expensive than it is, but it doesn't have to be unless you want it to be expensive.
Yeah, and that's the thing is I as a member of a bunch of different travel groups, I think a lot of people think there's one way to travel.
Or they're worried that
There's
they're traveling wrong. I think that's
Yeah,
really
and
what it might be.
there's just no such thing. And if you haven't traveled before, you might have a lot of ideas that aren't quite correct. They're a little bit blown out of proportion.
But
For
they're just
instance, I have
outdated ideas of like what you're getting
yeah,
into. Yeah.
like the idea that oh my goodness, if you go to Europe, you can't wear white tennis shoes
After Labor Day.
ever.
I wouldn't wear white tennis shoes just because like they're not gonna stay clean. It's
Yeah,
just not my thing.
right. Well, that's the thing is it's this sort of outdated information that people pass around as the God's
Hey,
honest
Rick
truth.
Steves is a great travel guide.
Rick Steves is wonderful, but he's
There's
most
other ways to
wonderful
do
if
it.
you're 40 or, 60.
Yeah. Or like just trying to figure out travel, and it's a good starting point.
Yeah, I mean, I have this friend who's been talking about wanting to travel for as long as I've known her. And recently I tried to push her into booking a trip. And I told her, like, you can do this. Like, there's no reason that she personally can't travel. It's not that expensive. And when she asked how expensive traveling would be, I said, well, I mean, 2 weeks, I'd budget like 2 to 3 thousand. And she gasped because she thought that 15,000 was what she would need. Well, if you need 15,000, I'm certainly not traveling.
I'm
I don't know what
out.
salary she thinks I'm making.
Yeah. No. If it was that expensive, I would not have left the country.
Yeah,
I wouldn't get a passport because that would just be too much. That's so much money in like 2 weeks. Unless that's what you're going for, where you want to stay at like the big fancy hotels. That's cool. It's just I can't afford that.
yeah, and
I like to eat, so
I don't think anybody has the misconception that everyone can travel. Like it is absolutely a privilege, but I think more people can travel than believe they can.
agreed. Definitely agreed. Yeah. Getting a passport is way easier than I really thought it was. I thought that like once I had like all my paperwork together that I would kind of be like questioned on like my citizenship and like my loyalty to the United States. I thought it'd be a little bit more involved when you go to the office to submit your paperwork than it was. Like they're literally just there to make sure that you have everything filled out correctly and everything just filled out in general before they send it off. It wasn't a big like process. It wasn't like a job interview like I thought it was gonna be.
Yeah, and I think lots of people think that. I mean, granted, I didn't have to get my first passport. My parents got it for me when I was 2 or 3. And I have really distinct memories of going to the office and being asked to identify, like, here's a picture of the president. What's his name? I'm like, I'm 3. It's some old dude who stands next to the flag a lot. I don't know.
George W.
But
No,
no, George. Just George. Well,
just
George
George, the first George.
H.W.
Yeah, the
George the
first
First.
George, not like George Washington, because you're not that old. But
And not to be confused with England's George the First.
ooh,
There's been a
yeah,
George the First, right?
sure,
I don't know
sounds
my
good.
monarchy history.
It's okay because we were separated. We left that.
They got the history in the divorce.
They did get the history in the divorce, yeah, but we'll get to that later.
I think one of the things we want to explore is the idea that there is no one way to travel. There's no one way to travel. I don't know where I was going
Wow,
with
there's
that.
no one way to travel. No, no, and we're not telling you that this is how you should travel either. It's just a suggestion to get you started. Like, if you want to get out there and see places in the world, use this as a starting guide. Like, tell us what you think. Find us on Twitter. Um, it's just like use this to get you started. Don't be afraid. Just go with it. Go
Yeah,
with
and I
it.
think we both had a point where we needed someone to give us the push to go and do it.
Who pushed you to travel? You were my push.
One of my coworkers had just gotten back from a trip to China around the time when I scheduled my first trip to New Zealand.
Yeah, but that
And
was after you lived abroad.
well, yeah, that's true. So I studied abroad in high school in Germany, and my sole motivator to do this year abroad when I was only 16, 17 was the fact that my sister had done one when she was 20. And my main goal in life when I was 16 was to do everything my sister did, but better and sooner so that I could show off. So that was my first
Nice.
push.
And you know what? I am thankful for that weird sibling rivalry.
Yeah, so I did a solo trip out of when when I was first most annoyed with my last job. That sentence didn't make a whole lot of sense, but go with me.
So when you were first getting annoyed with the job you had in California.
Yeah, exactly. So I
Okay.
was in a sort of dead end job for quite a while, and I decided I was going to go back to school and get my MFA. So I got into a really good school, and then they sent me my financial aid packet, and it was basically like you open up the folder, it says, LOL, you're getting nothing. And so I had saved up money to go to school, but not enough to get me through even a single semester. And one of my
Ouch.
coworkers had just gotten back from China, and she was showing me all of her travel photos, and I'm sitting there just like silently fuming while nodding my head and smiling, but inside I'm going, oh, I hate you so much for getting to do that. And so I
The
took the
travel
money I
envy.
saved. Yeah, oh, it is real and it is painful. So I booked a ticket to New Zealand by myself because a certain someone hadn't gotten her passport yet.
It was
And
kind of spur of the moment that you decided you're going. It feels like, I don't know, like it was like school in the Midwest to all of a sudden like, hey, I'm going to New Zealand instead. Screw school.
yeah, I mean, Northwestern at winter or New Zealand in summer. I think I'm going
Uh,
with New Zealand in summer.
yeah.
Yeah, and I think my first solo trip, aside from studying abroad, because that wasn't really solo,
No.
was kind of a trial by fire. It was every little mistake you could possibly make because you're overthinking it. I made it. Like, I thought, oh, I want to save myself as much time traveling as possible. So I'm going to take overnight buses between cities, which sounded really good at the time. And I was like 25-ish, I'd say. So young enough that doing stupid things that screw with your sleep wasn't totally detrimental. But like I'm boarding a
Little did
night
you
bus.
know it was.
Oh god, it was awful. I boarded a night bus from Rotorua down to Wellington, and I get on the bus and there's one empty seat. Just one seat in the entire massive double-decker bus. And I'm looking at it like, what is wrong with this seat? And like as I approach this seat, everyone is looking at me like, oh no, oh no. Like it's not clicking for me. What is wrong? and I get to the seat and I sit
Wait,
down,
wait,
and
wait,
the
can I
person,
guess? Did they pee
I
in it?
mean, no, no,
They
it's
pooped.
worse. No,
Oh,
I
okay.
sit down, and so one of the weird things about me is that I have a really, really weak sense of smell. I
Yes.
I can hardly smell anything unless it's super strong. So I'm sitting there for a minute, and the person next to me is looking at me like I'm crazy or like I'm a flight risk. Like there's all kinds of weird things going across this person's face. So when I boarded the bus, I was wearing a rain jacket. So I took it off and I sat back down, and the seat is warm and damp.
Oh.
And I'm sitting there going, oh, something is wrong. Something is wrong. And after a couple of minutes, it hits me like the overwhelming, like acidic smell of vomit.
Oh no. Oh.
But I'm now on like a 9 hour bus ride through the night. I've got to get some sleep because I have plans the next morning when I arrive in Wellington. And it turns out the vomiter had been kicked off the bus at the stop that I had gotten on at. And because they had gotten so incredibly drunk from the Auckland to Rotorua leg of the trip that they had just projectile vomited all over the place.
Oh, good lord.
And the other seats were fine because the people had been sitting in them. So they cleaned themselves off and they've still got a comfy seat.
Oh
But
god,
I've got this
nope.
seat that's completely covered in vomit and I have zero option. It's the only place I can sit for the rest of the ride.
That is that just is really shitty that like there's no other options and they like you're committed. Like you've
Mm-hmm.
sat in it, like there's what do you
Yeah.
do?
I've already got the vomit on the seat of my pants. Like they had cleaned it off as much as they can, but how it's liquid, like it's soaked into the seat.
Yeah, but I mean like by the time you've gotten to the stop and everything, like it's there. It lives there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh
Yeah, it
god.
lives there now. It was the first moment where I went, oh, this was a bad idea. It seemed so clever at first.
You know, I don't think it's necessarily a bad idea. It's just it was a bad idea for that person to get that drunk
Yeah.
and be on a bus
Oh,
for
God.
that long.
It was
Like,
so awful. And so I just sat there for the next nine
did
hours,
they
I
like
think.
applaud for you and like give you a medal or something when you got off the bus?
No, because I stunk. Like, I put my raincoat back under me to sit on, but the
It's
damage
too
was
late. The
already
damage
done.
done. Yeah. Oh, that's terrible. I didn't know that. Ew. Gross.
Yeah. So one of the things that I learned really quickly was you've just got to roll with the punches because stupid stuff is going to happen whether you plan for it or not. And sometimes it happens because you planned a little too hard.
Yes. Over planning schedules. That's like one of the things that we have a good laugh over on like the travel groups is that people have like every second of their day just like completely scheduled and planned out. That's
Yeah.
insane. That's
Yeah,
not
I
how you
saw
do your
one the other
normal
day.
life.
I saw one the other day that was 12 days and a different city every single day. Like, oh, honey,
Like
no, that's
flying or
not going to
driving.
work. I believe it was trains because it was all in
Oh, okay.
Italy, which is more doable than some of the plans where you see that's like London, Paris, Madrid, Berlin,
When
Moscow.
you're
And
like
you're like,
literally
oh,
like everywhere, you're not going to see anything. I mean, you can see
yeah,
some cool sceneries on a train, but you're not
but
really
let's be
experiencing
honest.
anything.
After a few minutes on the train, the countryside all looks the same and you're going to fall asleep.
Oh yeah, no, I'm good at that. I'm
Oh, I
really good
know.
at that. I get bored and like what is there to do? You take a nap. Hope nobody even mugs you.
It was like a few years ago when we were in London and we were taking the Channel to Cologne. I mean, Paris and then Cologne, or Bruges and then Cologne. No, Brussels and then
Brussels.
Cologne.
No, it was
Like,
Paris, Brussels, then another train from Brussels to Cologne.
and the day before, I was telling you, don't make that face at me. I was telling you how excited I was to pass through Aachen because Aachen was where I studied. And we were pulling through Aachen, and I'm sitting there like tearing up a little bit and kind of fanning myself. And I look over, and you are dead asleep.
You didn't even wake me up.
No, I don't wake
No,
you
I
up.
just
That's never a good plan.
I don't know. It's something if like I can do like road trips, but if I'm not driving, I might fall asleep at some point. especially like depending on who's like the road trip buddy. If it's my sister, I'm probably gonna fall asleep a little bit faster. But like, like certain people, like I can stay awake. Like if I'm the driver, I'm good to go. But if I'm just the passenger and like nothing's really going on or the music sucks, I'm out. I'm out.
At some point, we need to tell the story of our San Francisco to LA road trip.
Yes. Yes, that'll be the next episode. That was your first solo trip. My solo trips are all driving down to see you in California.
Yeah, we'll get into that for another
Taking
day
naps at rest stops like a rebel by myself.
That story is
oh my gosh, it is
special.
Amazing.
And it marks the very last time I ever ate a Ghirardelli product with very good reason. Ever.
Oh.
You trip balls off of too much sugar once, you don't do it again.
I don't know, it's kind of fun. That was freaking hilarious. Yeah, that was good times. But should we talk about overthinking and overplanning in our very first adventure? See how that goes.
Yeah.
See how that goes. Like it's a new story to both of us. Like, how was that trip?
How many times have we tried recording this?
Just twice. It's cool. We got this. So our very first trip, after I figured out like, oh, this was really easy to get a passport. They just give it to anybody.
That's the takeaway from this story.
No, it's a lot easier. It's a little spendy, but it's totally worth it just because we are fortunate enough being US citizens that you can go pretty much anywhere.
Yeah,
a lot of places still let you in.
Still, for now.
For now.
Yeah, it's not the best passport in the world to have, but it's pretty high up on the list.
I'm thankful for that, for sure.
Yeah, and if you think of the passport as the price being divided up over the 10 years it's valid, or 5 years if you're underage, it's a pretty decent investment.
It's not so bad. I paid the little bit higher cost to get it expedited to me because my sister wanted to go up to Canada for her. Oh shoot, was that her 30th birthday? It might have been because she wanted to go to the suspension bridge. That was up in Vancouver.
Yeah, the Capilano Bridge, I think.
Yeah, which she was not really prepared to be asked like very simple questions of like your purpose of going into Canada from the border control people.
This is still one of my favorite stories because your sister way overthought it.
She did. It was my sister and I, and then a couple friends that we did day camp with that Sarah also participated in sometimes. But they just wanted to know like how we knew each other and like what was our purpose. Are you meeting anybody up there? Like, like not that big of a deal questions. They're just trying to make sure that you're not going to do anything sketchy in Canada, land of the polite and maple syrup. So, she's overreacting and kind of like getting defensive answering these questions.
As if they're interrogating her when really they just want to know business or pleasure, essentially.
Yeah, and it's the better way to do it is kind of make it a casual conversation. Like, hey, what are you doing in Canada? Like, what's your purpose? Are you meeting anybody there? Do you know somebody here? Like, not a big.
Where are you staying? When are you returning? That kind of
Yeah,
stuff.
like, are you spending the night? Are you just a day trip? Like, what are you doing?
But instead, I was not there, but I've heard this story 100 times and it makes me laugh every time.
So good. It's just, she needs to relax more when she's going through like security and stuff because, that's a whole nother episode. Like, I've got stories for you.
So the Border Patrol agent says, "What is your purpose?" And what does Michelle say?
We're going to the suspension bridge.
Yeah, she says, "We're going up to see a bridge," which nothing sounds fishier than saying, "We're here to see your infrastructure." Although I imagine a terrorist probably wouldn't say, "We're here to see a bridge," because a terrorist would be slick.
Yeah, Michelle, they're going to be a little bit more prepared for this. Not prepared. They're like, oh, you stupid Americans.
I love the wheels that were probably turning through the Border Patrol person's head. Like, they want to see our bridges? They want to see bridges. That's what do I do with this information?
Yeah, like, should I be worried? Nah, she's too freaked out and worried. She ain't doing anything.
Yeah, I've been up to see the Capilano Bridge a handful of times, and
it's really cool.
no one's been able to make me cross it yet.
Oh, which is funny because one of the girls that was with us is terrified of heights, and she just went back. like the other day.
You just stand there and look at other people crossing it and be like, have a great time, folks.
No, the best part is because there's so many people that are there because it's kind of a big deal. Um, there's people that are stopping and taking pictures everywhere, like every 5 seconds. So then you're in
Mhm.
the background of everybody's photos. So what do? You make weird faces and poses because you're gonna be photobombing all of them, just like cute in your photo, like model. It was
For
great. My
those of
friend
you
and I
who can't
photobombed.
see,
Those were
Melinda
the
just made a
best
lot of weird
poses.
Asian poses. And I can say Asian poses because she is, in
I
fact,
am
Asian.
Asian, and we were totally photobombing another Asian people couple photos. Like, I kind of feel bad because we probably ruined those photos, but it was also really hilarious that we kept making stupid poses, and yet they still kept taking pictures like every 5 steps. So it's like, you brought this upon yourself. I'm sorry. I'm gonna be looking ugly in your photos. You're stuck with them.
How did we get on this
Memories.
topic when we were going to talk about our first trip together?
Because this is why I got my passport. Well, it's not why I got my passport, but it's like why I expedited my passport. We went back to passports, but our first trip.
Yeah, so ever since I got out of college and moved to LA, Melinda has come down to visit me in California at least once a year. I think our final year you came down twice, once in the summer and once
Yeah.
towards your
In
birthday.
October. It was my birthday, yeah.
Yeah.
Ow. I just punched myself with my mug.
So next time you make fun of me for putting my shoes on the wrong feet, just remember your difficulties with drinking.
I was just like aggressively trying to get my tea. What can I say?
That sounded way more insidious than I meant it to be. She is, in fact, drinking tea, as
I
far
am
as I can
drinking
tell.
tea. It's tea. I showed you. Okay. Yeah, I'm not quite sure why we started talking about traveling. I guess we both realized that we wanted to go to London, like go see the world. I
Yeah,
don't
well,
know.
I
I don't
think
remember what sparked it.
we did vacation in LA 5 years in a row, which wasn't super vacationy for me because I lived in LA.
I know. Sorry.
And so well, I mean, we had a great many adventures in LA.
Did
But I think at some point I was like, hey, you know what's cool? Not LA.
not this country. Going
And
see the
then
other one.
I did my New Zealand trip. And I think that gave me the motivation to keep motivating you because it was so fun. I was like, you would make this more fun. I almost said funner.
Yeah.
You would make this more fun if we went somewhere together.
If you came along and we're just not getting kicked out of countries or anything.
We have not been kicked out of any country yet. So
No.
high five.
What?
Yeah, Melinda just high fived her screen in case you were wondering.
High five. Just gonna high five.
And high fived herself.
Yeah. Gold star me.
So I think the idea, at least my rationale, was Melinda has not really been out of the country. She has been up to see that bridge, which was a
Canada?
successful trip as far as I'm aware.
It was. I got to sleep in
Maybe
a Harry Potter room at my friend's place in Bellingham. So yeah, it was successful.
my thought was let's do something easy for our first trip together because I didn't know how you would be able to handle things yet. I figured you'd
Me
probably be
neither.
fine, but someplace English speaking would probably be ideal for the first time out.
I think it's a good starting point having English. So you don't have that
So,
giant culture shock.
and because I guess for a lot of people, not just us, your idea of traveling the first time is, oh my God, let's cram every possible thing we can get in because who knows when we're coming back. And boy, did we cram stuff in. We did, even before things started going awry, we had London, Dublin, Glasgow, Edinburgh, and London again planned. And then things went awry. And I also convinced Melinda she wanted to go to a concert in Germany. So we did all
Which
of those cities
it
plus
was kind of okay
hello.
because in high school I took a couple years of German, so I can very poorly say hello, my name is. So it's like,
And
why not? I never thought I would actually get to go to Germany and like kind of use my German. So,
yeah,
it was
and
kind of exciting.
I think a lot of people go, okay, I may never come back to Europe again. Let's hit 20 cities in 2 weeks. We didn't quite get that many, but we definitely overpacked it.
Um, I don't feel like it was a lot. It was kind of the whirlwind tour, but it was kind of nice having like London being our hub, but we just didn't plan
Mm-hmm.
out like, oh, this airport's far from the city and we're getting back late, and how's like are there still going to be buses running to get us back like in the
Surprise!
city?
There almost wasn't.
There
That
almost
is our
wasn't,
biggest issue.
and we didn't have the right fare to ride that bus, but I think the driver was just like, whatever, just get on. It just felt bad
Catching the next
because
to
we like
last
panic.
bus or the last bus seems to be a recurring theme for us.
Or missing the buses potentially. We're not sure on that one in China. So
Oh, yes, China. That's a whole fun story for another day.
yeah.
That
But
is, yeah.
that first trip was a whole lot of like, oh, we're like missing our transport.
Yep.
Because we
So,
left so late out of LAX that we realized we weren't going to have enough time to get to our next flight, because the first night we were supposed to fly to London and then fly out to Dublin same
mhm.
day. And we're just watching the clock and like we're running out of time, and we had to rebook a flight for the next day out from LAX. But then it's like, where do we stay the first night?
You mean London, not
Yeah,
LAX.
like, well, once we got to London from LAX, it's like, where are we gonna?
Mhm.
We're gonna be in London, but we have no place to stay.
Yeah, well, here's the thing that I never told you about those tickets.
Truth comes out.
When I booked them, so I believe we were supposed to land at noon, and the connecting flight was at 4 p.m., or so I thought. What it actually said was that the connecting flight was at 14 o'clock. So
Oh
two
my
hours.
god, I'm always gonna have to bubble. You've done this again.
So what I thought was a 4 hour layover was actually 2 hour layover. And when our flight was delayed, there was no way we were going to connect that. So surprise, I made us rebook those tickets because I booked them wrong.
So no matter what, we were gonna have to get another flight. Oh, nice.
Uh-huh.
Oh, nice.
Did you notice how I waited like 5 years to tell you about that?
So we needed to wait 5 years to talk about other things then. So
Yeah,
makes
the
me
thing
mad.
where I cost us both like 100 euros each.
Uh, always have spare money, and just in case you have to yeah, rebook things, because someone's really bad at like time conversions apparently.
Well, I'm fine with it now, but I was just so rusty at the
No,
time.
nope. I question that. You did it again.
When?
China.
When?
Your leaving flight. It wasn't in the afternoon, it was
Oh,
in the morning. Yeah,
that
so
was slightly different though, because I was switching between a 24-hour and a 12-hour clock over and over again. So I didn't know which one I was looking at. Okay, you know what? Time is hard. How is the takeaway from this podcast that I'm an idiot? How did I get into this?
you did a podcast with me.
Someday we
Oh,
will turn the tables on this.
so now I learned that like no matter what, we had to rebook that flight, and it wasn't just because it was getting later and later that we were taking off.
It was both things. But the big issue, the big takeaway is that book your tickets on the same ticket. Like we had booked the flight into London and then separately the flight into Dublin. And if you book those on the same ticket and your flight is late, they have to put you on the next flight. If you book them separately and your flight is delayed, you're screwed.
Because if you book them together,
It's their responsibility.
yeah, they know that you're running late, or like, so either they'll hold the flight if it's not that big of a deal, or like they'll find you a way.
Yeah, well, we were going to get there one way or another,
I would
but I wasn't
swim.
going to tell you that at the airport when you were sitting there and you were a little bit nervous.
I was a
That's when I
little bit
gave you
nervous
the
because that
big,
was new. That's how
oh,
we
you were
started.
just a
It's an
little baby.
adventure.
Exactly. We
Yeah.
were at the airport and I was like, okay, so here's the thing. Sometimes when you travel, shit just happens and you just got to go with it. And in the back of my mind, I'm going, and the shit is you. You are the shit in this situation. You are the shit.
Specifically talking to yourself, not me.
Yes, not
Yeah.
you, me, in the back of my head to myself because I knew I screwed it up.
But
Surprise!
we're just like, shrug. It's an adventure. We booked a flight, waiting to board ours, and then
Yeah,
we just decided once we got into London that we'd figure out where we're gonna stay.
yeah, and that just set off a series of not horrible things. It was not a series of unfortunate events, although
No.
they were kind of unfortunate.
That was the only
Like,
unfortunate thing because we were kind of out the money, but no point getting mad over it.
I mean, luckily it wasn't that much money. We really
No.
lucked out because those flights weren't expensive. But so we had to rebook our connecting flight. And then we landed in London thinking, oh, no big deal. We're going to find a hostel or a hotel or someplace. But there was some sort of convention going on and everything was booked up. So, yeah, the hostel ended up being pretty expensive. And we had to contact the hostel if we were going to in Dublin and tell them to hold our room because we weren't going to be there. It was
Till
just,
the next day.
yeah, things just piled up and up. And I think we were both getting a little stressed. Like, this was supposed to be our first big adventure together. And
It wasn't stressful until it's like, oh, getting a room for today is a little bit harder than we thought it was going to be.
yeah, well, because this conference had everything that was nearby was booked in full. There were no vacancies.
Yay, conferences.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, we found a place. We ate the cost. It wasn't bad.
No, I think in the end it probably cost us like $150 to $200.
Which, you know, it's an emergency. It could have been way worse. We could have
And
been
I
sitting
like
on
that
park benches.
in retrospect, neither of us thought to use our insurance, which granted it wouldn't have worked.
Oh, okay. I'm like,
Because,
because it was our fault.
yeah, well, it was my
Yeah.
fault, but neither of us even thought of it.
No. Oh, I still haven't thought about it until you just brought it up today.
We do that fairly frequently. Something goes wrong, we eat the cost, and then 2 years later we go, hey, travel insurance. Like when we tried to go to Sweden.
Oh. God damn it. Oh. Damn
See,
it.
you can travel an absolute ton and still make little stupid mistakes. And that's okay, because little stupid mistakes
And, you
are
know, I'm
adventures.
always thinking, like, just in case, you know, I have my travel insurance and, like, this is going to be covered and it'll be good. I'll never freaking use it.
Did you try to file a claim after the Japan thing? When they made us change all of our names and on the tickets?
No,
I think
because
we
it got
thought about that
reimbursed.
too.
We did. That was, like, the one time we thought, oh, we'll use a travel insurance for this one.
Yeah, but the upside is that because we were stuck in London a night that we didn't think we were going to need to be there, we kind of wandered around London in the dark and acted like idiots for a little while, which was fun.
We got fabulous fish and chips because what else do you do when you're in London?
Uh-huh.
And we walked to it. So Sarah got a fabulous tour that I made up of this building that I decided was a child prison because it had all the features and the markings. So I was just making
I don't know. How does one identify a child prison?
It was a foreboding looking brick building, I think, with like the gates over the windows, so you can't get like in or out.
Like 90% of London
I know.
buildings.
I know. It just fit, okay? And I made up history about it, and I learned that I had a good skill about making up tours, because if you say things with confidence, especially like dates, like people don't really, they kind of raise an eyebrow, like, are you full of like just garbage right now, or do you know what you're talking about? But it was a fabulous tour, and as we kept walking and seeing different features of the building, it's like, oh my god, it fits my story.
And for people who are wondering, is Melinda full of garbage?
Oh, I am.
Frequently.
Yeah,
Frequently.
I'll make things up and say it with confidence just because it's funny. It's funny. And it makes for good times, you know? Good history lesson of a place that I've never been to except for like as of this moment. Yes, I know about this random building we're walking past. Where am I?
Yeah, I think that trip was really good for us because the things that went wrong were really low stakes and things we could recover from. And we kind of adopted the attitude that it's an adventure. Anything that happens that goes wrong, it's a good story to tell later.
We just shrug and say, it's an adventure, and then we forget to use our travel insurance when it's applicable.
Except for the only time you have not said it's an adventure is when I had you bring a suitcase to me in Germany and the wheel broke off. And the second you got into my apartment, oh my god, your suitcase is broken. What a nightmare. It's an adventure? No? Oh, okay.
No, I was saying that to myself as I'm like lugging this giant suitcase that's bulging full of stuff, which I didn't realize that was not how it was supposed to start. But like it was packed to the gills with stuff. and the wheel broke, and it's just me like trying to navigate like German trains by myself.
I'd
With
like to point out
this
I did
suitcase
not
that was like
pack
as
a
heavy as I.
suitcase.
Yes. Well, I mean, you did, but you did not make it that full. And I'm
No.
like, I feel so lied to. It wasn't gonna be this heavy. It wasn't gonna be a big
I
problem.
think
Like it was bad. But that's what I told myself to
when
keep from crying.
when I left it with my parents, it weighed 25 pounds. By the
It was like,
time it arrived, it was 50.
yeah. I felt so betrayed. And then until you opened it and started going through it and like telling me like I did not pack this. I'm like, yeah, okay, that makes sense now.
And to be clear, it was not baggage handlers slipping things into my bag. I was not suddenly a drug mule. My mom had cracked it open and started shoving other stuff in it that she thought I'd need.
Which we're not sure if it got searched and they left it like unlocked or if it was your mom.
Probably my mom.
Because I didn't think to check it. I thought I was just good to go, whatever. So.
Oh, quickly on the subject of baggage handlers getting into your cases. When I moved to Germany a few years ago, I brought 2 suitcases and carry-on and all that, and a cat. But that's another story. When I got my suitcases back to my apartment, I opened it up, and inside it was full of pencil shavings. Like someone had opened my suitcase and decided, I need to take some notes, but my pencil is dull. One sec, folks. And
How am I
sharpened
supposed
it.
to inventory all this shit without a sharp pencil? That's exactly what they were thinking.
Yeah, and it was just full. Like, they must have shaved easily an inch off of this stupid pencil over my suitcase.
That is the weirdest thing ever.
I don't understand it to this day. It is baffling to me.
God, we should be baggage handlers just to mess with people like that. Just little random things. Like all of a sudden you have like a rubber duck that's in your suitcase now.
What I love is in travel groups when someone's like, well, I brought my vibrator with me, but when I got to my destination, it was gone. We should do the opposite. Just put brand new vibrators into people's suitcases.
I feel like that's going to get expensive.
Yeah, but fun. Maybe once a year on April Fool's Day.
No, Christmas. So just
Put
December.
a bow on it and a note that says from your secret Santa.
Ew.
And they'll always wonder who put it in there.
Oh, good lord. No. No. That's weird. I would be very freaked out because then it's like I have to touch this to get this out. I don't know where it's been.
Well, in the wrapping.
That's not as fun.
But maybe break the seal on one end just to leave them wondering.
Oh, God. Terrible idea.
You laugh because you know it's a wonderful idea.
Not on the receiving end. Just
no.
Not on the receiving end.
Okay, fine. What would you put in it? What would you put in there?
I said I would like instead of just pencil shavings where it's a mess and inconvenient, I would sneak in like rubber ducks or something. Something odd that's like clearly something you didn't pack. But that would be like, I could get at the dollar store. You're gonna get a whole bunch of like little plastic dinosaurs.
Yeah, I would still go for vibrators or underwear.
Oh god. Could you imagine you're just opening it up and you're like, that's not my underwear.
Someone is going to get home, unpack their suitcase, and their wife is going to be like, whose thong is this?
I mean, it's bad enough when you're like mid-trip and you just have your carry-on for your luggage, and then you get the TSA search, and they're like having to go through everything, and I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, everything's dirty, everything, and they have to open, kind of like rummage through everything, and you're like, I haven't done laundry yet. I'm sorry. That shirt's seen some stuff. It was warmer than I anticipated.
When we were going through security in China, I saw security people putting on medical masks to search bags. Like, man, how bad is their luggage?
It was hot. They
China was very hot.
The thick rubber gloves. It's like I just sweated all over everything, and I am so sorry. Everything in here is gross. The only clean things are what I'm wearing.
Ugh.
Yeah, God. It was hot.
Yes, it was. Okay, so maybe before we go, do we both want to offer one travel tip that we think is useful? I have one ready, so if you don't, I can cover for both of us.
You go first, and then I'll think of mine and make it better than yours.
So there is one mistake that I make every time. As a single person, I do not keep a lot of food in my house. And so time after time, I come home, I open the fridge while I'm jet lagged and filthy and exhausted, and there's nothing there. So this isn't really a
Oh.
travel tip, it's a return trip. Before you leave on a trip, buy something frozen, like a pizza or like TV dinner, something, so that you don't have to run to a store, you don't have to order expensive food. Just have something there so when you get home, you have something quick, easy, and edible. Because literally, when I came home from Christmas, I had a can of corn, can of beans, and some taco seasoning.
Come on, it's like being on Chopped. You got this. 30 minutes, go.
I ate corn with taco seasoning.
Oh, that's
I
kind
had a
of
can of,
sad.
yeah, it was bad. But it was a holiday in Germany, so there was nothing open. I could order food, which I
What was the
ultimately ended up
holiday?
doing. Day after Christmas is a holiday.
Well, it's Boxing Day.
Yeah, but everything's closed. Or did I get?
No, you got
I
back
don't
later
know.
this time.
Nothing was open. I don't know. But I ended up ordering food. German takeout is not very good. So I spent like $20 on food that made me feel icky. So yeah, frozen
Worse.
pizza. That's the way to
Something
go.
frozen. That's good. That's smart. My advice or closing tip would be like when you get home, just put everything in the washing machine. Just take out all your clothes and put it in the washing machine right away because then it won't
Because if you
sit and
don't,
it's not going to happen for a really long time. Just
yep.
just everything that's in the bag, everything I'm wearing, everything just goes in the washing machine and I go directly to the shower and like wash off the airplane.
Yep.
And then you feel a
And
lot better.
tangentially related, before you go on vacation, don't put something in the washing machine and then leave it there for 2.5 weeks. Because I did that this time.
Oh,
And I had
gross.
a very, very moldy duvet.
Oh, gross.
Yeah.
That's
Rest in peace,
tragic.
duvet. But my thought had been, oh, I'm going to have clean bedding when I get home. And then I ran out of time to finish it. And I had very unclean bedding when I returned home.
Yeah, joke's on you.
Whoops. Serves me right for trying to be proactive,
Yeah,
but not
just
active enough.
crawl into bed. It's fine. It's cleaner than what you were sitting in like 5 hours ago on the plane.
This is true. And
Anyways.
much cleaner than that bus seat in New
Oh,
Zealand.
gross. Also, if there's one seat left and everybody's looking at you a little freaked out, use precaution before sitting down.
And maybe just stand up the
Yeah,
whole way.
yeah. And then, when in doubt, just shrug your shoulders and just tell yourself or your travel buddy, hey, it's an adventure. I think that's a solid closing. I think we should end on that.
Yeah, let's go with that.
All right.
So, yeah, thank you for listening to us ramble for like an hour.
Mm-hmm.
And come back when we have our next episode up, whenever that'll be. Because, boy, howdy, do we have some good stories. Like nearly being kidnapped in China. Or were we?
Politely.
Politely kidnapped.
Politely kidnapped. We're on Twitter, and I think that's about it. It's just Seattle to Unknown, right?
I think
I
it's
think
C to Unknown.
Oh.
Because Seattle to Unknown is too long.
Oh. But, okay, we'll figure this out, and we'll tell you for realsies. We don't have a real schedule yet, but we'll try and figure that out, too. Just like us. Listen to us.
Yeah.
All the
Follow
time.
us on Twitter, and
We'll
maybe
figure out
update you
other
there.
things to tell you. Yeah, we'll figure it out. So until next time, this is Seattle to Unknown. Just remember, it's an adventure.
Yes, it is. Bye.
Bye.